Hi, and thank you for joining us on another segment of New England Veterans Liberty House, Veterans Serving Veterans. My guest today, again, is Dr. Grace Shen. So no, this is not a repeat. I actually had her come back for another session because I know that she was here once, and we felt together that it wasn't really enough time to talk about the topic that we were discussing and to give you all the information necessary that you needed at that time. So we felt that it was necessary for us to do another show of combat PTSD and combat related issues. So thank you, Dr. Grace Shen, for gracing us with your presence. Today's topic is a very, very, very sensitive topic for many, but it's also a topic that needs to be discussed, being discussed more often than none. I think we can't, personally myself, and with you, we're actually trying to break little barriers and try to come up with options and come up with other ideas to be able to get the word out there about combat-related PTSD. So this is one of the forums I think that is a good place to start. So again, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located at, and I know you have your own practice, so tell our audience about that, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Sure. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a practice in Andover. Have been working with the veterans in the last about 4 years now, and been really enjoying that. So my hope is that having more people in the community understand what's PTSD, what's combat veterans struggle, especially in the state of Massachusetts. We have so many National Guard, reservists, and the family members that living in the community that they really need our support.
They do. I think that because we're not, say, let's use California, for example, that have multiple active duty bases that will have I think more supportive services at their disposal.
Exactly.
Than the National Guard or reservists. Exactly. Let me give it, for their credit, National Guard and reserves, they are trying to get more families involved. But I think that they're still missing a little bit of the mark.
Especially if you think about in the South, that when you have the community that with a big base in like say Kentucky or Carolina, that people living in that community, they more or less knows what's military, what's a base, And if you're living on a base, when someone is deployed, your neighbor always knows how to support each other. Correct. I was joking with one of the family. I say, if you are on the base, that before your son comes home, someone already called you, or someone will actually call your son and say, excuse me, your dad is on the deployment. You better straighten yourself up.
Yeah, dad's coming home, or mom's coming home.
Yeah, exactly, so.
You do, but you get more support.
Exactly, but here, it's hard.
It is, it's difficult. I think that situation does dictate. I also believe that it's also upon us, ourselves. We need to educate ourselves more about our loved ones, whether it's your mom or dad or sister or nephew or cousin or brother or sister. We need to educate ourselves about, again, because as I always say to you and others, is like, they try very hard, National Guard and Reserves, to do like family programs. Yeah. But they're not giving you a combat ready book and saying, well, here you go, read this. This is where they might be going, and obviously omit stuff that are operational security. This is what they're gonna be facing and the terrain they're gonna be facing. Yeah. And then they'll say, oh, by the way, and here's another book. Read this because this is why the effects or some of the effects and some of the issues that they might have upon returning. They don't have that. So it's very, very, very important for us to get the families involved. And I can't emphasize that enough, because I see kids that come into New England Veterans Liberty House homeless, that weren't homeless, but they became homeless because either their father or their mother or their girlfriend or fiance or wife didn't understand some of the symptoms and automatically assumed, oh, this guy's just a nut. I don't want to be next to him. But not knowing to it. So before we get a little bit further into it, tell me a little bit about PTSD and combat veterans. Please talk a little bit about the what is the post-traumatic stress disorder, and talk a little bit about that. The stressors, I guess. You have a few criterias here, so I think you can explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, so I thought that PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder is so commonly heard, but what is PTSD?
Exactly,
right?
What is it?
Yeah, what it is.
Because there's different forms of PTSD. You don't have to be a military member to have PTSD.
Yeah, exactly. So they are actually the what we call the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is so-called mental health professionals all know about this, and the diagnosis come from this criteria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then based on they have A, B, C, D, E, 7 criteria, actually more, but these are the primary 7 of them that
Primary triggers of PTSD.
Yeah, primary, like
Okay.
how they diagnose it, whether you fit the so-called criteria. So for example, whether you have flu or not, okay, if you have stuffy nose, if your throat hurts and so on and so forth, then yeah, you probably have flu, right? So if you meet all those criteria, yes, you have PTSD. Yes. So the first criteria is the so-called stressor.
Please
And-
elaborate a little bit on that.
yeah, the so-called stressor is that there is a situation happening, and this stressor is not, say, I wake up in the morning, I don't feel good of going to school. This stressor specifically is that it's a situation where you know your life is in danger.
Imminent danger. Okay.
So not only that your life is in danger, that you are being exposed to that situation for a certain period of time.
Yeah, and I like that again. Interrupt that, but I like always the analogy you use of the rubber band.
Yes.
That resonates with me because it makes so much sense. So yes, please continue. I'm
So
sorry to cut
it's
you
a
off.
life-threatening, and you might be witnessing that, or you know there is a possibility that you're directly exposed. So in a veteran situation, for example, if you are in a combat zone, you are directly exposed
Yes.
to that situation.
Yes.
And even when you are not, say you're not infantry, say you are a
In the rear.
medic, say medic.
No,
Yeah,
I see a
you are
lot of
not,
stuff.
Yeah, you are not directly,
In the firefight, but
but you are being exposed, or you are witnessing someone's life in danger,
sure.
and you are being exposed to
Whether
that situation.
whether a medic, whether you're in the front or in the rear, because medics do see the aftermath.
Exactly.
Of all the fighting and the combats that happen on in the battlefield. So
Exactly. So that's the first criteria, stressor. And the second criteria is that because of the stressor, because certain period of time that you are exposed to that situation, so that you are experiencing after the stressor even being relieved, you are experiencing the so-called intrusive symptoms. So the so-called intrusive symptoms, for example, like you have like say memories, you have flashback, you
Nightmares.
have nightmares, you have like physical reactivity, for
the
example.
night sweats and all
Night
that.
sweats.
Yeah.
Or for example, I have a veteran talking about for the 18 months that she was in Iraq. That
18 months straight.
yeah.
Holy
Yeah,
mackerel.
because they were the earlier ones.
Yeah,
She
well,
said,
my first deployment with the Marine Corps, sorry for Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I did 18 months, but I just didn't think that happened anymore. I thought it was more like a year. Wow, 18 months, that's a
yeah,
long
so
time.
she said, I remember she said, originally they were told, well, more like
year.
maximum 6 months. Then 6 months become 12 months. Then 12 months become 18
18 months, that's a long time to be surrounded in that environment.
And then,
long time.
yeah, and so what happened is that because in the beginning nobody prepared to be there that long, so a lot of things they eat, the body waste, they have to burn it.
Please don't remind me of that. Yeah.
Okay, so now whenever she smells something,
Burning
yes,
brings her back to
there is a physical reaction of the anxiety starting to come up.
By the way, there is some literature that just came out, as a matter of fact, and go to the Department of Veterans Affairs website. It does pertain to exactly what we were just talking about, that right now they've been doing a study, and
Burn pit.
anybody in regards that were next or around burn pits are suffering some type of symptoms. And I apologize that I don't have the exact verbiage for you, but you feel free to give us a call at 978-258-2331, or visit our website at www.nevlh.org, or you can go to the Department of Veterans Affairs and also look that up. It's very important because it just came out not too long ago. I'm sorry, please continue. I know we were talking about the nightmares, flashbacks.
Yeah. So these are the so-called intrusive symptoms, and it's not pleasant.
No, they're not.
No, of course
Not at all.
not. It's
Yeah.
not, because there's a stressor. So now you have intrusive symptom. So majority of the time, people's response is to trying to avoid that.
Yeah, sure,
right?
avoidance.
Yeah. So now that's
Avoidance is the best way for many of the veterans to go through their day.
exactly. And so the best way I describe it, if you think about as a child, that have you ever touched the stove? Your mom said, "Don't touch it." You touch it,
Touch it again.
right, and you get burned.
Yes.
Right? So when mom is warning you, don't touch it, you don't think.
Yeah.
You still curious.
Curious as to what the repercussions are.
Yeah, but once you get burned, next time you learn to be careful.
Yeah, you won't get next to that.
Yeah, but if someone actually get burned really bad, to be hospitalized in a burn unit, I can guarantee you this person for the rest of his life or her life, this person
We'll have that flashback or memory.
and then try to avoid cooking.
Makes
so,
sense.
So now you have intrusive symptoms. It's a natural response that you
Makes
wanted to
sense.
avoid.
Yeah.
Right? And so what avoidance is a lot of, for example, some people use drinking.
To numb themselves.
Exactly.
Yes.
But the so-called avoidance is you're avoiding the same feelings, the thoughts, the places, or the people. They will actually trigger.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it makes sense. It's like perfect example. You know, we've done a lot of operations, say, in the city, where I think there must have been like 10 people for every 10 square inches of real estate. There's a lot of people. Make a long story short, there's a lot of people in the area. And so one of my avoidances is the mall. Like the mall or a movie theater
Yep.
or stuff of that nature, because there's so many people.
Yep.
So that to me is avoidance. You
Yeah,
know,
or if you probably have experienced that, or I heard of a lot of veterans talking about this. Whenever there is a crowd, especially the whole crowd comes to you,
oh yeah, that's not. Yeah,
it's
that's-
very likely someone in the crowd is going to use that as a disguise
yeah.
to stir up some trouble.
Sure, conceal. Yeah, you
Exactly.
conceal themselves. Yeah.
Yes, so that's why a lot of people coming home, they avoid being in the crowd,
Yeah.
being in the mall, being in the movie theater, or if they do, they have to know where the exit strategy is.
Yes, and that's what one of the key things that I want people to understand is that just not happens with just movie theaters and malls or crowded areas. That can happen in your house. I mean, if you might have, for instance, I thought I was invited, and thank you, Beatrice, for inviting me over to your house for Thanksgiving. It was a wonderful spread. You know, I thought I was going to be very uncomfortable because of not knowing your surroundings. And it was, believe it or not, at the beginning stages when I walked in. But as I went in, I knew a few people. So I started feeling a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
And then as the day was gone, they were very welcoming.
Yeah.
Very welcoming. And Beatrice, again, you know, I talked to her for a few times, and we've been friends for a very long time. But I really thought that I wasn't going to be able to just sit there. And there was only maybe 15 people there.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't necessarily mean that it's a big crowd. It could be
Yeah.
issues where it's you're going to someone else's house and there's a crowd of people there, or
And it
in a
doesn't
line. I'm sorry, at McDonald's, in a line at Burger King.
Yeah, it doesn't
somewhere.
even have to be indoor. I remember a couple years ago, I was working with this veteran who happened to be on duty during the Boston bombing.
Yep.
And I remember he told me that he remembered that morning when he arrived at a place where he was supposed to.
Yeah.
He remembered thinking to himself, this is the best place if they are going to put a bomb.
Sure. Yeah. You think about those things.
Yes.
And people don't.
And so now right away there's an intrusive memories comes in. There is some kind of avoidance.
Yeah.
And so for some people, they might never go to Boston Marathon because they don't want that kind of crowd.
Is that what they call flight or fight mode?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Am I gonna just beat it out of here, or I'm gonna stand my ground and hold strong? So it's tough. It's a tough situation. But you're 100% right. It's that flashback that you get, and because of that flashback, you try to avoid everything that will bring that smell, a noise, someone that's somebody wearing something that reminds you, and you turn around and now look. There's a lot of stuff out there that fits that criteria.
Yeah, and then that's a natural human response that you just wanted to avoid those negative feelings, because there's a reason it's a stressor.
There's a reason behind it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do is our Dr. Grace Shen and myself and NEVLH, what we're trying to do is try to come up with what's called mini-series talks. And it's geared more for families, more so than the veteran. Please, the veteran are invited in general because that's what we do. But we're trying to get you, the family, the cousin, the sister, the brother, the uncle, the aunts, out to these meetings at 599 Canal Street. In the 6th floor conference room. As a matter of fact, our first one is this Wednesday.
Yep.
At 599 Canal Street at 6:30 in the conference room. The one in January, and I need to mention this now before I forget about it, the one in January is going to be actually Northern Essex Community College is going to be hosting us there.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and then I think that you were going to be talking, I think, to someone in UMass, which I think we still haven't done that. But nonetheless, we just want to give you the heads up of the next, there's a 6-series talk. And so we already did one. I think this is our second one, correct?
Yep, the coming Wednesday.
Yep, and then so now you know about this one coming Wednesday, and then January also. We still haven't decided whether or not it's going to be at the Lawrence Northern Essex Community College campus or Haverhill, because I think Haverhill has the most veterans there.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that we could probably get a larger crowd. But this is really something that I think that what Grace has done is a blessing, not just to me, but a blessing to the families, because she's bringing up some really key points for you all to understand, and I really hope you all take advantage of it, because before you kick your loved one out of your house or misunderstand what he's done, please come and see these. Come and talk to us. Come and be a part of this series, because I think it's going to be so beneficial, and you're going to get a better understanding of, oh, I get now why my son is doing this.
Yes,
or,
and then I've heard of a lot of wives said, I wish I would have known this earlier.
You keep mentioning that. That's right.
Because if I had known this earlier, I wouldn't take his behavior personally. And when I took it personally, I react negatively.
Exactly.
And then when I react negatively, he react.
Of course. Yeah.
Defensively.
It's like, exactly. It's the way you approach me is the way I'm going to approach you, right? So we have this thing is we've done in the military, done things A, B, C, and D, and we're used to doing things by the numbers, right? So, and a lot of people that surround us that have never been in that military, and we had the first one that was military culture and civilian culture, and I wish you would have done actually the taping, because she spoke about the difference between the military culture and civilian culture, which I think it was so great of a topic, because when we come home, we're still in that mode of that hypervigilance mode, or we want things in an orderly manner, not because I want the house to be straightened out all the time. It's because I want to make sure that something was not placed in a place that was empty, 10 minutes ago. Stuff like that is what goes through a veteran's mind, not oh, it's a little bit of clutter. No, it's like that's a possible hazard. So I mean, it's important to talk about these things, and it's important to you, the family member, to educate yourself, because if you don't educate yourself, I think that we're going to have more and more troubles in the long run when it comes to veterans and families. Excuse me.
And I'm not trying to say that you have to cater.
No, absolutely not.
But but with more understanding,
be proactive.
Yeah, with more understanding, it actually opens up the conversation.
That dialogue. Yeah.
Yes, the conversation, the communication, the dialogue. Then it helps both sides actually have understanding to each other.
I do. I believe so. I mean, you don't have to, and I don't think anybody, I know I wouldn't do this to my family, but if, one of my immediate family would come and sit down and ask, I think I just said ask. I think Jeannie's coming down the stairs in a second. So, they come and ask and say, what did you go through, or in combat? I think I would sit there and I probably will talk to them. I'll obviously omit some of the stuff that they don't need to know about. But I would definitely enjoy, very much just to sit down and have a conversation, because it shows to me that, okay, now you're interested in, what actually took place, and interested in knowing why am I acting in the manner that I'm acting here. So, that open communication, I think it's crucially important. I don't know about what you think about that, but I think it's just crucially important. Just don't sit there and say nothing, just...
Or expect everything will so-called back to normal.
That's not ever gonna happen.
So I'm going to borrow this, and I've tried this before. So I've said this, so this is yours, right? So yes. I said this, I said, if your family are working on a straight line like this,
okay,
what happened is that during the deployment,
I'll hold that for you.
That's okay.
Okay.
During the deployment, this service member walking to
Bears
a
off
detour.
To a flank.
Okay, so the family keep going. So now he's come back home here, but the family is already here. So the family members expect him to be everything as normal here.
Yeah.
But he's expecting them to be everything to be normal here.
Yeah, so that's where the clash is at.
Exactly. But when you are actually able to discuss, so tell me a little bit about what's going on, or I'm here, I'm willing to listen. Yeah. What happened is that now you are really coming down
together,
here to talk about what's going on.
Yeah, and that's a good display too, and a good analogy, because it makes so much sense. It really does. When you leave to deployment, what we call in the military is time stops.
Yep.
Plain and simple. Time for us stops.
But what I heard is that there's no zip code.
No. That's it. No zip code. You're just in boots and ground. That's it.
Yes.
There's no such thing as time, dates, or you don't go by that. So time literally stops for an individual that deploys from the state to a foreign country. And then when he comes back, it's like you coming back in a time capsule, because now you're expected to be that same individual, or be able to pick up the same pieces that you left behind when you get back. And that's so far from the truth.
Because even though your family member misses you, life still have to go on.
For them, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
They still have to go to work, go to school.
Take care of the kids, cook, clean.
Take care of the grocery, the bills, and everything.
Yeah, sure. It's a big burden. It's a big burden on not just the veteran, but a big burden on the family.
Exactly.
And I keep saying that, someone, obviously a higher ranking than I am, should come up with some type of doctrine or something that you could give away to the families about, again, talk about the military culture versus civilian culture. Talk about, who knows, maybe we'll start working on that. That's another task. Not like we don't have enough to do already, but I think it's crucially important for the family member to really understand that veteran is not going to pick up those pieces that he left behind.
Exactly.
It's just not going to happen. It's unrealistic. And if you're expecting that, then that's when the trouble is going to happen.
Exactly. And I remember using this example before. So a veteran left when the baby was just born, right? And now he came home. A year later, the baby is running around.
Yeah.
Right? It's walking and running around.
Yeah.
And so when he left, he was still able to control that child.
Yeah.
Right? Holding the child in his arms. And now he left, come back, the child is running and he couldn't have any control.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't just pick up.
Yeah. You can't just. Yeah. It's hard to imagine. I mean, I remember when I left and came back, and obviously the first person that I wanted to see was my daughters. And I remember my daughter just wrapping her arms around me and saying, like, "Don't ever leave me again, Dad." Right? That's heartbreaking, right? So now she's now a year older, right? A year older. Now she's a teenager now. So, it's no longer my little Savannah. It's no longer. Now she's a teenager. Now she's one grade above what she was when I left her. So I have to approach things in a delicate manner. However, I didn't do that. Right? Because you're still coming up and you're still so hypered.
And not only like what you remember was her a year ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And whatever happened in this year, you have no clue.
Yeah, I always say, man, that when the veteran deploys, the family deploys with you, just in a different capacity.
Exactly.
Plain and simple. There's no other way to say it. You're not facing the deadly threats on a daily basis, but you're going with these sleepless nights worrying about your loved one in harm's way. Is your loved one eating well? Is your loved one sleeping? Is your loved one alive? So all those thoughts go through the family member's mind. And so that's what I'm trying to get the message out, that it's okay for the family member to come to that veteran and ask.
Yes.
Just ask. Just sit down 2 seconds in a cool, calm, and collective manner and ask, "Are you okay?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about what happened. Talk to me, or let me know what I could do to be able to reacclimate back into our world that you left." Because you don't know this world, whether it was 10 months or whether it's here. Listen, in 1 month, your life could change, right? So in 10 months to a year, a lot has changed.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, I applaud a lot of the family members. And as a matter of fact, I had a client that came in. I was so excited to see that. I had a client that came in with her son. And not knowing that was his mother, we were there to service the veteran, but we were talking about, hey, listen, we have these services and like to get, maybe some of your family members involved. And he said, "Oh yeah, this is my mother." And when he said that, I was like ecstatic, because I reached out and introduced myself to her, and I says, "Thank you for being there for him." And all she said is, "That's my boy, and I need to be able to understand what he wants." A lot for doing so, and unfortunately, not enough families are doing that, and they're rushing to judgment. And there's so much more involved, and we don't have much time here left. And so I want to go ahead again and remind you all about the mini-series talks that are coming up again this December 3rd. 2nd, my apologies, at 599 Canal Street in the 6th floor. We also have the one in January 6th. I stand corrected, and that's going to be hosted by Northern Nexus Community College. And so, like I always say before I leave the show, go out there and make a difference in someone's life today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying.